Welcome to the Money Mindset Podcast. Here we break down finance, investing, and smart money strategies in a simple way.
Right now, there are, millions of internet domains just sitting there completely dormant.
Oh, yeah. Millions of them.
Right. And they were bought by people who spent exactly $100, felt this massive, intoxicating rush of entrepreneurial excitement. And then
they did absolutely nothing.
They did nothing. I mean, they bought the digital real estate, parked the car, and just walked away. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are basically dismantling the illusion that keeps all those domains empty.
It's a very common illusion, unfortunately.
It really is. So our mission today for you, the listener, is to explore how a single, slightly crumpled $100 bill can theoretically be the entire seed you need to build a sustainable business.
Which is, it's a premise that challenges one of the most deeply ingrained assumptions in our culture.
Well,
the whole idea that capital is the ultimate gatekeeper. I mean, we've all heard someone say, or maybe we've, said it ourselves, I'd love to start a business, but I just don't have the cash.
Yeah, the classic excuse.
Exactly. So we are going to deconstruct the mechanics behind a few digital business models from our source text to show that, capital is no longer the bottleneck.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the fundamental argument we are looking at today is that the absolute biggest lie about money is that you need money to make money.
It's a huge myth.
Right. So we are posing a very direct question to you today. Do you actually lack money, or do you just lack clarity?
That's the real question. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, we are observing a structural shift in the nature of commerce itself.
How so?
Well, historically, the barrier to entry was physical weight. Securing a storefront, buying bulk inventory.
Managing supply chains, all that.
Right. All of that required heavy upfront financial investment. But today, the core mechanic of business has shifted from capital to leverage.
Leverage. Okay. So instead of buying a massive factory, your $100 is, it's buying a very specific lever.
Yes, exactly.
It's buying the leverage of your existing skills, or the leverage of global internet distribution, and the leverage of human attention.
Which is huge.
Yeah. Which brings us to the most immediate way to apply that leverage, right? The category of active digital services. So like video editing, copywriting, graphic design, social media management.
Right. And this is the fastest mechanism for seeing a return, primarily because the overhead is it's virtually non-existent.
Yeah, it's basically zero.
Exactly. You are just monetizing applied effort.
I look at this through a specific analogy, actually. Like, your $100 isn't buying you a factory. It's buying you a toll booth on a very specific digital highway.
Oh, I like that. A toll booth.
Yeah, because you aren't building the road. You aren't inventing the cars. You're just acquiring the specialized software or the professional domain name that lets you charge for access to your specific skill set.
Right.
You're basically positioning yourself at a point of friction for someone else, and you're just charging a toll to remove it.
And the mechanism there relies entirely on solving a time deficit for the client.
Yes, exactly. They just don't have the time.
But this is precisely where we hit the first massive psychological barrier from the text. The illusion of readiness.
Oh, the illusion of readiness. Yeah, the pattern is incredibly predictable here.
So predictable.
Yeah.
Someone buys the premium video editing software, right? They watch 60 hours of tutorial.
Oh yeah, YouTube rabbit holes.
Totally. And then they freeze.
They just stop.
They wait until they feel ready to step into the market. They operate under this false assumption that they need to be a top-tier, world-class expert before they can exchange a service for capital.
But the reality of the market is that the moment of perfect readiness never actually arrives.
No, it never does. It's a phantom finish line.
A phantom finish line. I mean, that's so true.
The critical insight from the source is that the market doesn't require mastery from a beginner. It requires utility.
Utility. Okay, so you don't need to be the best.
Right. You simply need to be slightly more proficient than the person hiring you. Or, honestly, more commonly, you just need to possess the time to execute the task that they are just too busy to do themselves.
Yeah, they're paying for their time back.
Exactly. The $100 just gets you onto the playing field. Your willingness to aggressively learn and, iterate while on the job is what actually sustains the business. You are getting paid to practice.
You are getting paid to practice. I mean, you don't have to be Christopher Nolan to edit a local real estate agent's TikTok videos.
Yeah, definitely not.
You just need to know how to cut the dead air, maybe add some engaging captions, and deliver the file on time. You are solving a headache.
That's all it is.
But let's look at another model where we leverage effort, one that doesn't rely on specialized digital software. Reselling.
Ah, yes. Reselling.
Flipping items, finding clearance arbitrage, sourcing vintage goods. In this scenario, the $100 isn't a software subscription. It is your literal starting inventory.
Right, and it is commerce in its most distilled, ancient form.
Just buy low, sell high.
Exactly. Buying an asset at a lower perceived value and moving it to a market with a higher perceived value.
Now, I have a hypothesis about this.
Yeah.
Because, if reselling is just buy a mug for $1, sell it for $5, everyone would be a millionaire.
Right, and they're not.
They're not.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know someone who tried to flip vintage clothes and just ended up with a garage full of moth-bitten sweaters.
Oh, absolutely.
So if information is the actual leverage here, that means the $100 is just the entry fee to a casino where you already know the dealer's hand, right? You aren't gambling, you're executing an arbitrage.
That is the exact mechanism. Your friend with the garage full of sweaters, they had the capital, right? But they lacked the asymmetrical knowledge.
They were just guessing.
Exactly, they were guessing.
Yeah.
Successful reselling in the digital age relies on algorithmic pattern recognition.
Okay, what does that look like in practice?
It's the ability to look at historical data, like eBay sold listings or niche forum demands, and knowing definitively that a specific, say, 1990s Sony Walkman will sell for $300 to a collector in Japan.
Wow, okay.
While the thrift store in front of you is pricing it at $4 because they just see an obsolete cassette player.
Right, so you are bridging an information gap.
Precisely. The person who succeeds at reselling isn't leveraging their $100. They are leveraging the fact that they know something the thrift store manager doesn't.
Yes.
And they have access to a buyer the thrift store manager can't reach. Once you acquire that highly specific information, you can repeat the pattern endlessly. The capital is merely the vehicle that allows the knowledge to become profitable.
Okay, so with digital services and reselling, we are actively trading our time and specialized knowledge for capital. We are executing an arbitrage on our skills or our information.
All right.
But there is a glaring ceiling here, right? I mean, there are only 24 hours in a day.
That's the limit of active income.
Yeah, if you get sick and stop editing videos, or if you take a vacation and stop hunting for vintage Walkmans, the revenue stream completely dries up.
It stops entirely.
So to break through that ceiling, we have to evolve our leverage. We have to divorce our time from our output.
Which requires leveraging the underlying architecture of the internet itself.
Right.
This marks the transition from active income to scalable income, and it's fundamentally driven by the capture of human attention.
Human attention, content creation, building a newsletter, a podcast, a highly niched social media presence.
Yeah, exactly.
And the brutal reality of this model, which the source text makes very clear, is that at the beginning, the financial return is absolutely zero.
Zero, nothing.
You might spend your $100 on a decent lapel microphone or web hosting, but for months, you are literally speaking into a void. Is a massive filter.
It is an exercise in extreme delayed gratification. The actual investment isn't the $100. The investment is the behavioral discipline of consistency.
Because the internet algorithms want consistency.
Right. They are designed to test for consistency before they grant any sort of distribution.
Because the platforms need to know you're going to keep their users on the site week after week, right?
Yes, exactly. And what's fascinating here is the mechanics of the attention economy. Attention is a highly liquid, incredibly valuable currency.
It really is.
We have to view audience building as constructing a funnel. At the top of the funnel, you are offering free value. Entertainment, education, curation. And you do this in exchange for attention.
Okay.
Over time, consistent attention builds trust. And once you possess high trust attention, monetization is just a natural byproduct.
It just flows.
Right. You can direct that attention towards sponsorships, ad networks, or affiliate partnerships. And attention scales infinitely without requiring additional physical labor.
That's the key.
Writing a newsletter takes the exact same amount of time whether you are sending it to 10 people or 10,000 people.
So true. But here's where it gets really interesting. Once we have that attention, how do we monetize it without tumbling backward into the trap of managing physical supply chains?
Right. We don't want a garage full of sweaters again.
Exactly. So we look at print on demand. For a modern audience, we already know the logistical magic here. Zero inventory. No shipping boxes out of your living room. The product doesn't physically exist until the exact moment a customer clicks buy.
Yep. The fulfillment center handles everything.
Right. But the source, makes a wild claim here. The logistics are completely automated, sure, which shifts the entire burden of success away from operations and places it squarely on consumer psychology. The core premise here is that people do not buy products. They buy identity.
They buy identity.
Yeah. But I have to push back on this a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Let's say I go online and buy a coffee mug that says, I survived another meeting that should have been an email.
Okay, classic mug.
Am I deeply expressing my soul's identity? Or am I just buying a funny piece of ceramic that holds my dark roast? I mean, it feels like we might be over-intellectualizing a joke here.
Well, let's analyze the mechanism behind that purchase.
Okay.
You could have bought a plain white mug from a big box store for $2, right?
True.
It would hold your dark roast just as effectively, but you didn't. The premium you paid for the text on the mug, that is the price of signaling.
Signaling, okay.
You are purchasing a physical signifier to communicate something to your coworkers and honestly, even to yourself. You are reinforcing your identity as a pragmatic, slightly cynical professional who sees through corporate bureaucracy.
Wow.
You are buying entry into a specific cultural in-group.
When you lay it out like the behavioral economics of a coffee break?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I am absolutely signaling.
Right. And because print on demand removes all the physical friction, I mean, you aren't dealing with minimum order quantities or warehouse fees.
Right, that's all handled.
The only variable left is your empathy for the target demographic. If your design perfectly encapsulates how a specific niche sees themselves, whether that's marathon runners, introverted dog owners, or cynical office workers, the transaction will happen.
It's automatic.
But if it is merely a generic aesthetic that fails to mirror the customer's internal narrative, it will just sit in the digital void forever. You are not selling cotton t-shirts and ceramic ink. You are selling a mirror.
Selling a mirror. That changes the entire paradigm of e-commerce. You aren't a manufacturer anymore. You are a sociologist observing human behavior.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've evolved from leveraging our direct effort to leveraging scalable attention, to leveraging psychological identity. Now we reach the apex, the model that operates with absolute maximum leverage.
Yes.
Digital products.
This is the economic holy grail of the internet age, primarily because it introduces the concept of zero marginal cost.
Let's define the mechanics of that for a second. With a digital product, an ebook, a budgeting spreadsheet, a software preset, an online course, you do the work to create the asset exactly once.
Just once.
You might spend your $100 on the software to format it or the platform to host it, but from that moment on, the cost to produce one additional copy is zero.
Right. It defies traditional physical economics. Think about it. If you manufacture a chair, every new chair requires more wood, more screws, more labor. But with a digital template, duplicating the underlying code requires zero raw materials and zero human labor.
So the profit margin is basically pure.
The profit margin asymptotically approaches 100%. However, the marketplace for digital products operates on a very specific psychological rule. People do not pay for information. They pay for solutions.
Which feels entirely counterintuitive. I mean, an ebook or a course is, by definition, just a collection of information.
It is. But we exist in a post-information scarcity world.
Oh, that's a good point.
You can find the raw data to solve almost any problem for free on Wikipedia or niche forums or video tutorials. Information is abundant to the point of being overwhelming.
Totally overwhelming.
Therefore, the consumer is not paying for the raw data. They are paying for the curation, the sequencing, and the promise of a highly specific outcome.
They are paying to save time.
Exactly. If someone is struggling with disorganized personal finances, giving them a 300-page textbook on macroeconomic theory is completely useless.
Even if it technically has all the answers.
Even if it contains the information they need. What they will happily pay $50 for is a simple, pre-formatted spreadsheet template that instantly organizes their monthly budget.
Right.
You have identified a specific pain point for a specific group of people, and you have packaged the alleviation of that pain into a digital asset. You are monetizing the shortcut.
Monetizing the shortcut. I love that. So what does this all mean?
Well,
we've traced the evolution of leverage through 5 incredibly viable frameworks today. We've seen how digital services, reselling, content creation, print on demand, and digital products all utilize different levers.
Right. Effort, asymmetrical information, attention, identity, and zero marginal cost.
Yeah. The blueprint is fully transparent here. The capital requirement is literally the price of a decent dinner out.
Yeah.
So the obvious question remains, why aren't we all operating highly profitable digital businesses from a beach right now?
This raises an important question about human behavior.
Does it ever?
The frameworks we've discussed are mechanically simple, but simple is never synonymous with easy.
The mechanics are simple, but the execution is agonizing.
Absolutely. Setting up the hosting for a digital product, that takes 20 minutes.
Right.
But pushing through the imposter syndrome to actually write the product, facing the reality of marketing it, enduring the silence when your first launch fails,
Oh, man.
and having the discipline to iterate and try again, that is incredibly difficult. The friction is entirely internal.
It's the psychological wall. We are paralyzed by the perceived safety of overthinking. I mean, we consume deep dive after deep dive. We research microphone specs for 6 weeks.
Yes.
We tell ourselves that we're just waiting for the perfect time. We think, oh, I'll launch the service when work slows down, or I'll start the newsletter when the kids are back in school.
But that waiting period is merely procrastination disguised as meticulous preparation.
Oof, that's harsh but true.
The perfect time is an illusion. The friction of starting isn't a lack of resources, it's an aversion to vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Right. As long as your business is just an idea in a notebook, it remains pristine and flawless. The moment you spend that $100 and put an actual offer into the marketplace, you expose yourself to the very real possibility of failure.
You risk finding out that your idea needs work, or that your skills require, sharp improvement.
Exactly. We prefer the warm comfort of planning to the cold reality of executing.
Which brings us full circle to the very first question we pose to you, the listener. Do you lack money, or do you lack clarity?
The money excuse is gone.
It's permanently removed from the table. We've systematically dismantled the capital argument. $100 is more than sufficient to access unprecedented global leverage. What remains is clarity of action, and honestly, the courage to endure the messy, imperfect process of starting.
We have mapped the architecture. The levers are sitting right in front of you.
They really are. So I want to issue a direct challenge to you, the person listening to this right now. You have 2 options when this audio stops playing. Option 1, you can nod your head, think to yourself, what an interesting theoretical discussion, and go right back to exactly what you were doing.
You can leave that domain name dormant for another year.
Exactly. Or option 2, you can pick just one of these mechanisms. Choose the toll booth of digital services or the arbitrage of reselling. Choose the attention funnel or the zero marginal cost digital product. And you can execute on it today.
Today, stop waiting.
Stop waiting for the phantom finish line of readiness. Because the ultimate truth we've uncovered today is that the $100 was never the seed of the business. The $100 is just a psychological filter. The actual seed is what you decide to do next.
I couldn't agree more. And before we go, I want to leave you with one final kind of lingering idea to chew on based on what we discussed today.
Oh, please do.
We talked about how people buy identity and pay for solutions rather than just products or information. So if people are really just buying solutions and identities rather than physical items, take a look at the last 5 things you bought.
Oh boy.
Ask yourself, were you actually buying the object, or were you just paying to reinforce the version of yourself you want the world to see?
Oh, that is going to keep me up tonight. Looking at my recent purchases.
Yeah.
I'm guilty.
We all are.
Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of digital leverage and the psychology of getting out of your own way.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Keep questioning your assumptions and keep learning.
We'll see you on the next one. Stop waiting and go build something.
I've been holding on so tight, 'cause all that